Welcome to GMP, the Great, Glorious, and Glamorous, aka the Going North Podcast. I'm your host, best-selling author, and certified self-leadership trainer with the John Maxwell team, Dom Brightman. And this is the podcast where authors from around the world help you realize that success is tangible. Now let's get on with the show. Today's episode is sponsored by yours truly, Dominic Dom Brightman's wonderful book, Stay the Course, The Elite Performer 7 Secret Keys to Sustainable Success. Grab it on ebook, audiobook, or paperback book and share this gift to your friends, family, heck, even no matter what season it is, for that wonderful person in your life that needs to advance their next level in their career or just needs a quick pick-me-up to get through their day and beyond to thrival level. Now let's get on with the show. And today on the Highlight Reel builder for authors known as GMP, the Great, Glorious, and Glamorous, it's the Going North Podcast. And I got to thank my fellow D and also past guest on this show, the DP herself, Divya Parekh, for hooking me up with this super special, awesome human right here. Because my goodness, today's guest, the second of 7 children, y'all. That's right, the second of 7. So lucky 7 that was taught to take care of her younger brothers and sisters. So that's right, folks. We got the one who had to take most of the rules. And since she had to take most of the rules as a younger taught, she actually led her to becoming an attorney for 40 years. My goodness. And during those 40 years as an attorney, this wonderful lady right here has mentored clients, law students, and young lawyers. And now this super special, awesome human right here now uses her knowledge about children and people to write chapter and picture books for kids ages 6 to 11 years old. So let's give it up for Miss JH herself, Miss Joanna Hurley. How you doing today, Joanna?
Hey, I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing great. With the tiger stripes and all. That's right. That's right indeed. But no tiger blood, though. We don't do that here.
No.
We believe in winning, but not that part of the winning.
Right.
Oh, God. Can't believe I was almost 10 years old now, that reference. But my goodness. As you know, with all introductions, they're not allowed to be 10 years long. So mind filling in any cavities I may have missed about you, Joanna?
I think that was a good description. I started telling stories and creating stories when I was about 12 and I started babysitting. And then it just sort of went on from there. Obviously, as a lawyer, I wrote an enormous amount. Business lawyers, entertainment lawyers always do. But I finally was asked by a friend if I could write his granddaughter a story for a 5th birthday present. I said, well, I thought that he should just buy her one like everyone else. And he said, no. He knew that I could write her a story. And so I talked to her mom, found out that they had just moved. She had a new bedroom, didn't like it too much. And that was where I started with the story.
Yeah. He was like, yeah, I know she got some talent in there about some writing. Let me see if I can bring it out of her somehow.
Yeah, exactly. I think he was being a little cheap, which I tell him from time to time, but now he's proud of himself. So as good friends should always be.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Definitely indeed. Yeah. It's like, oh, probably cheap for him, but not cheap for you.
Yeah.
But hey, it's priceless because, hey, now you get to really embrace your talent to something you've been wanting to do for a while. So, my goodness. So, out of all the books to write, what led you to decide to become a children's book author?
I've always been really serious on the one hand, but I've always had this little quirky part of my personality. And so actually, I do something unusual in my writing. I write first person as an 8-year-old. At least she's 8 at the moment. So I think it's just this natural progression. I like the characters I created for the story for my friend, which is the story that I published. It started with The Witch's Spell. And it just seems very natural and normal for me to be doing that. So while I love mysteries, I love lots of other genres, this just seemed to speak to me. I think it's part of the mentoring of my brothers and sisters, clients, and interns and law students that I did over the years. It's very similar.
Ah, that's what I'm talking about indeed. That's what I'm talking about indeed. So my goodness, so writing with the first person in the book, and you got another book that's coming out later this year, I imagine, since I believe we're in the editing phase of it. Do you believe there may be a spy novel for the kids in the future?
Oh God, I wanted to be a spy when I was young. So I do think about that. I don't know if it'll be the current characters, the little girl who's the heroine in my current series, Zoe. I don't know if it'll be her, but I would absolutely love to do that because I still think that the CIA could call me at any time and say, I think we need your help. Um, so yeah, I think that would be a great series. This series so far, it's called the Zoe and Arthur Adventures series, has 4 stories. The fourth one's in progress. Um, but I think it would be really fun to do a spy story.
Oh yeah, because when I read about that in the bio, I'm like, yeah. So I'm like, oh, I know there's a spy novel coming out soon for the kids. It's like, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. We just
Yeah.
have to have a different angle than anything that's been done before by others. So that just takes percolating for a while. The third story took a lot of time for me to think about that. It's called Arthur and the Flying Carpets. So some of these, it just depends who the characters are. So
Any idea who you think the character might be for the spy novel if you decide to let the idea percolate in your mind?
maybe a brother and sister, maybe cousins, maybe classmates where one is international. I've traveled a lot, and so I could see that happening. I mean, I've I've sat on a train in Italy and had a judge coaching me on my Italian. And so, you meet people on trains. So I think maybe something on a train, something international. Not sure if it would be a girl or a boy as the main character, but I like that. The first series always has a real life part of it and then a fantasy part of it. I'm not sure if in another series that will happen too. I'll just sort of see where that takes me.
Sounds like a plan indeed. Sounds like a plan indeed. That's right. It's like, all right, so here's this wonderful time. I'm going to need to coach you on Italian. Don't say you have a bomb. Just don't say it. We're going to take the bomb out the whole lexicon indeed. So, my goodness, so with all your international travel and being coached to speak Italian well by a judge, so how was that international travel experience? Because if I'm not mistaken, you've actually lived in Italy for, well, then again, not Italy, if I'm not mistaken, France for
In
quite a few
France,
years, right?
yeah, I did. I had a house there for 15 years and lived there the last 6 years. Um, I always wanted to have a cultural experience where I got to know another culture. I've always been attracted by culture based stories, I watch Bollywood movies. I'm just fascinated by the differences with people. Once, when I was traveling in England, ended up in a restaurant at like 6 in the morning, and there was a French couple and my husband and I, and the French generally have coffee or hot chocolate for breakfast and bread. And because it was so early, there was only the cook working, and so you had to have a fixed English breakfast. And the French couple could not imagine this. So, hearing their plight, I finally got up, to my husband's dismay, went over and said, look, they just don't eat that much food in the morning. Charge them what you have to charge them, but give them coffee or hot chocolate and bread, and they will be happy. And he looked at me and he talked to them. They were thrilled. So culture, and everybody's like people wise. Everybody is the same despite how the news portrays people. And so when you travel, you get to see that. And living in France has been the most exciting part of my life, the hardest, because unfortunately, French and I are not friends. I'm not fluent. I smiled my way through experiences until my French was better, but it truly was a very, very, very special part of my life.
That's what I'm talking about, indeed. That's what I'm talking about, indeed. And yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned how people are people no matter what the news portrays, because that's the thing. It's like, oh yeah, we got this fear machine out here. We're not calling it that, but that's what it is, propaganda and everything. And then when you
Yeah.
actually travel and immerse yourself in different cultures, like, oh yeah, they're just human like me. They gotta take bio breaks. They want peace of mind. They just want to live their lives and
Yeah,
embrace their
exactly.
dreams.
With travel is so important. And one of I've written 9 books now. The first one's been published, but one is a travel series for families, and it takes people away from their homes, seeing things differently, seeing people one to one, and that's what it takes. That's what it takes. The one story, the family goes to Mexico for their first trip. They meet a wonderful Mexican family who have a restaurant on the beach, and they share a birthday party with them. And they're so honored to be included. And it really teaches them all about just what we've said. Everyone's the same. In the other story, the family realizes when they move to France that things are so different that it takes the different members of the family with different character traits and skills to conquer living in another country. So the family members take on different roles than when they're in the US. I just think it's really important that people get out of their day to day and meet people one on one.
Woohoo! Definitely could say that again today because it's so darn true. It's like, yeah, stop being turtles, y'all. I know we want to be the trendy introvert who wants to hide in the house all the time. But hey, get out there and meet people. Now, granted, I know it's kind of hard at the time of this recording with the pandemic turning from 2 weeks to going on 3 years, but yeah.
Yeah. No, it is. But if, I mean, reading opens up the world to people. For kids, reading introduces you to what's off of your block, what's on another block, so to speak. So until we can travel easily again, I think that reading is the next best thing, but you have to learn about other people. You have to get past. I mean, think about, sadly, the view of French people in the US is that that they refuse to speak English, and they aren't nice people. And it's just the opposite. They are so warm and wonderful and giving, but you don't know it until you stop the prejudices, stop the, oh, everybody knows this, everybody knows that. Well, they don't. They don't unless they experience it.
Ah, that's right. It's getting out the echo chamber.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. For me, I never was a big rule person. So if you said the rule is X, I would say, oh, thank you so much, but I think I'll go this way instead. And so it was probably easier for me to um, to see people for who they were or who they are, but it really is critical on a political standpoint, on an artistic standpoint, on a social standpoint. And it goes to looking at people in our country and looking at people in other countries.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So yeah, it's actually kind of interesting. It's kind of an oxymoron. Lawyer likes to break the rules within reason, of course.
Yes, but yes, I know. My mother, it pained her immensely. But I always could come up with an explanation for why it appeared to be breaking the rules, but not really. But that's the naughty 8-year-old in me, you know?
Gotta love it. Gotta love it. So my goodness, so with all this wonderful creativity and all the travel and all the lessons you gained from it, if I'm not mistaken, you've actually taken some of those lessons and actually created some wonderful tools for people. Because if I'm not mistaken, you actually created a confidence plan for a young French student too, right?
Yeah, I did. I met this young, she's actually was a law student at the time, and she had a hard life. Um, Family, mixed background, grew up in Paris. Dad had some health problems, couldn't really work too much. And so he was into some things he probably shouldn't have been. And she grew up really afraid, very bright girl. And when I met her, one of her teachers called and said she doesn't have a place to live. So I said, oh, okay, I have a second bedroom. And so she came and lived with me. And for about 2 weeks, I walked around thinking she needs confidence. And if she has that, she can do anything. And so I kept on writing down spare thoughts and finally developed a plan. And it was based on things like, well, my mother's main rule, which was do your best. You're not going to be good at everything, but do your best. And when you follow that, it's demanding. I've stayed up till 3 and 4 in the morning. I've gotten up at 4 in the morning to prepare for something I hadn't quite had enough time for. It was a very demanding taskmaster for me, but if I didn't do well at something, I didn't beat myself up about it. I just knew that it wasn't one of the things I was good at. And so I put all those kinds of things, talking to her about making sure that she made up her mind about things. She had her own moral compass and not having to think about pleasing other people, but just pleasing herself. And it really worked for her. Today, she's finished school, she's working, she's really happy. I have a niece that also had sort of, or actually a grandniece, who also had some challenges growing up. And she said, Aunt Joe, I keep the confidence plan, by my desk and I look at it every day. And it just gives her strength. So I think confidence is the one thing that allows kids and adults later to accomplish anything they have the skill set for. And so to me, it's critical. My stories talk about some of those same kinds of issues, doing your best, being courageous. And so the confidence plan was the start of that.
Sweet. That's what I'm talking about, indeed. I'm glad to have helped out, especially staying up until 3 and 4 in the morning. And some days, like, oh, gotta get it before in the morning.
Yeah, not easy, but I was so determined to do my best for my clients. I had no boundaries. And it's not the best thing not having boundaries, but when I first started practicing, there weren't that many women lawyers. I needed to do everything I could to do the job for my clients. And I had clients that stayed with me 15, 20, 30 years for that reason. So it my rule is you start with your heart and then you a couple seconds later check in with your brain, and it always has worked. It's always worked for me.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Checking with your brain and your heart. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. Right, indeed. Probably more important now than ever. Probably why mental health is a big topic around the world right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So, since you're on this little mini podcast interview tour, is there a question that you wish you'd be asked more often?
I think um I think the one question is can a children's book writer and author help parents parent? And I think humbly that I'm hoping the answer is yes. And I've talked to parents that have read the book with their kids, and they say that so that I've developed a tool called KidQuest. And KidQuest at the moment is a tool that has questions at the end of each chapter that talks about the important theme of the chapter. Now, these are wacky stories. These are fun stories. There's nothing preachy or anything about them, but the quest tool of getting children to sit back and say, oh, would they have done what Zoe did when she got to the castle? Would they have helped the princes? Would they have, um, basically climbed through a window to go get help? Would they have done all these things? I want the kids to think, and then the questions can help the parents because there was a question about friends. Are you bossy with your friends? Zoe's quite the personality and aggressive. And so one mom said, we talked about friendship after we read that chapter. So we read a chapter, talked about the questions, then it was time for bed. But we definitely talked about bossiness and being kind to your friends and things. So I think that I'm hoping that the story gives parents that quiet time, especially when our days are so busy. Social media takes over so much, work takes so much. But in that quiet time at the end of the day with the kids, you're talking about things like kindness, generosity, responsibility, courage, and even you're doing it proactively instead of just after there's a problem with your child, with someone at school, so that the kids start learning from the beginning to think a certain way. Empathy is a critical tool and trait, And so I'm hoping that the story helps give parents tools to make it easy when they're tired to talk about issues.
That's right. So if the parents are tired of talking about magazines, give them a book. That's what I'm talking about. Hey,
Yeah.
that's what I'm talking about. Indeed. But hey, you're definitely right, though. Kids' books can definitely help out the parents. Funny enough, actually, one of our past guests from a couple years ago, Ariane Deba Voice, and actually had a little mini children's series book because her little one, her first one, had trouble sleeping, kept her and her hubby awake. And funny enough, the books actually were more enjoyable for the parents. Because
Yeah.
one of them was called Giggles and Joy. Like, oh yeah, I do need to laugh more often.
Yeah. 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 Exactly. Um, yeah. Parenting's not easy, and it's not easy today. Parenting is actually quite different in the US than in France. The French are very protective of their family time. So there's no going to the store on a Sunday, stores aren't open, there's family time. And so I think that parents all over the world need um, help and stuff, but I think that parents in the US, with as much as they're trying to accomplish for their families and everything, really need a little help.
Oh yeah, definitely indeed. So that's pretty interesting. So that's actually good. So they're really protective of their family time over in France.
There are businesses. There was a caterer. What he had a restaurant and then he set up a catering business. Really nice food. And in the end, he closed the restaurant, which was quite successful, to only do the catering. So he had more family time. And there are lots of examples of businesses that would make perfect sense for them to be open on the weekend, and they're not because the parents want that family time. You'll see parents taking walks. I was in a 500-person village, and in that village, there were parents you would see out walking with kids after dinner. And one family, particular father, and maybe like a 12-year-old daughter. And you would just see them walking around the village arm in arm after dinner, talking.
As I'm talking about right there, that is so beautiful. Heck, even
Yeah.
good for the calories too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. French food
Exactly.
is good.
uh, well, heck, well, since you mentioned food, I guess I'll transition to my new favorite question to ask wonderful guests. So, if your wonderful book, it started with the witch's spell, it was a food item, what would it be and why?
It would be a dessert. Zoe loves desserts. She and Mrs. G, her friend, are always plotting, planning, resolving problems over a plate of cookies, brownies, chocolate cake. And on my website, I've put some recipes, um, and there'll be more over time, but definitely a dessert. It's a little piece of goodness that you can give yourself. You can't control a lot in life, but you can control whether you have a nice little piece of dessert.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You probably eat dessert before the rest of the meal, don't you?
The 8-year-old might.
All right, so the answer is yes. All right.
You
There's
got
an
me.
8-year-old in it.
You got me.
It's like, darn it. Well, I'm going to live a little. Let me have the dessert first. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, there we go. That's right. And I'm going to cheese while I'm eating it too. That's right. Whether it's cheesecake or not. That's right. Oh my Goodness. Well, we're coming down to the magical question that every guest gets to receive, and that is if you're to wake up tomorrow and you're 25 again, but you're in the year of 2022 with all of your knowledge and experience, what advice would you give to yourself?
That's a good question. I think I would say just be as passionate as you can about everything that matters to you. Because I think passion is what distinguishes people who are happy, who are successful, who give to the world. I think it's having a passion for something and going after it and getting it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That magical passion right there. You got to go get it. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. Like you too can become a writer. That's right. You too can do it, whether it's for emotional or intellectual reasons, and help out the parents become better parents for the kids. That's right. That's right indeed. That's right. Keeping them in the book as opposed to a screen.
Yeah,
That's right. Even though we grown-ups can sometimes fall victim to the wonderful zombie apocalypse device.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. No, everything artistic, you know, um, has a purpose, but developing your imagination, learning about the world, learning about people from books is a pretty special thing. And it's something that then you share all your life with everyone.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely indeed. As people think about writing, it's like, yeah, that's right indeed. You can share with everyone. Everybody can have a slice of the pie.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right indeed. That's right indeed. Well, for those who want to buy a copy or 157 of your magical book, as well as your future books for the kids, heck, even if they got some nieces, nephews, or some grandkids, what's the best way for folks to do so and keep up with all the stuff that you're doing?
The book's available on Amazon. It's also available if you ask at your favorite bookstore. And then to keep up on things, my website, Joanna Hurley stories.com is out there. Facebook, again, Joanna Hurley Stories shares my move from France to Oklahoma and thoughts about writing and other things. So lots of ways to keep in touch. And um, I'd love to hear from people and parents about what they think of the Kid Quest questions and any ideas for stories. Throw them my way, and who knows what I'll do with them.
That's right. She'll make them bestsellers. That's what she'll do with them.
That's right. That's right.
That's right indeed. That's right indeed. You're going to speak it in existence for you because it's going to happen, y'all. That's right. She's in a state where she gets to embrace her creativity indeed. And that's one of the best places to be.
It's really it's such a happy place for me. I just go into a different world, and and somebody said when they read the story, they said, "Oh, I thought it would be a more serious kind of children's book with you being a lawyer too." And I said, "No, no, no. It's got lots of funny things in it, you know." So yeah, so the book again is called "It Started with the Witch's Spell," and certainly reach out to me and share your thoughts about it.
Woohoo! Well, there you have it, folks. Reach out to the wonderful, jubilant Joanne and Dave. Check out all the wonderful stuff she's doing. Check out the marvelous book. Buy some copies for your friends, family. Heck, even if you have a pet penguin that's extra small in Antarctica somewhere, go ahead and get the book for them, and they might even have inspiration to have a tea party in Antarctica for the rest of the penguins, indeed. Heck, Maybe even a camel might join them and become a snow camel. It could be a giant camel penguin party. Oh, that's right indeed. So definitely check it out, like all the library books. So any parting words before we close up shop, Joanne?
I just was going to say, I'm going to brainstorm stories with you because it sounds like your imagination sounds like mine. We'll have a good time doing that.
This is your host, Don Brightman. Hope you enjoyed what you just heard. And if you really did, do me a solid and leave a review if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, on YouTube, wherever you're listening to. And subscribe to hear more because more is coming your way to advance you further than before.